After a weekend hiking in the mountains, sunburned and grinning, I pulled into the driveway of my suburban home in Clearview Estates, ready to crash. My good mood vanished when I spotted a neon orange notice taped to my front door, glowing like a warning flare. Not tucked in the mailbox or slid under the mat plastered for all to see, like I was the neighborhood's most wanted. In bold letters, it screamed, "Violation, excessive plant growth. Immediate fine issued." Below, a $500 penalty was stamped in red, signed with the flourish of Margaret, the HOA president who ruled our beige empire with an iron fist. Standing on my porch, surrounded by my thriving flower beds, herb spirals, and potted lemon trees, I felt my pulse race. $500 for what? For daring to make my yard look alive in a sea of manicured monotony? This wasn't just petty, it was a declaration of war. I'm Ethan, a freelance web developer who moved to Clearview 3 years ago. My yard was a blank slate of HOA-approved grass, and I hated it. So, I turned it into a sanctuary, succulents by the windows, rosemary along the path, a vertical garden on the garage, and a small herb tower the neighborhood kids loved to poke through. It wasn't just landscaping, it was my escape from endless code and screens. My garden was where I breathed. But Margaret had always wrinkled her nose at it, muttering about uniformity at HOA meetings, her eyes drilling into me. Property values depend on consistency, she'd say, like my lavender was a crime scene. I'd brushed it off, thinking her heart was just allergic to joy. Now, this fine proved she'd been biding her time, waiting for me to slip up. Her tyranny wasn't new. My neighbor, Mrs. Singh, got slapped with a fine for wind chimes that disrupted the aesthetic. Another got a warning for a birdhouse deemed too whimsical. Margaret ran the HOA like her personal fiefdom, and we were just tenants in her kingdom of dull. Furious, I called my friend Lucas, who laughed and said, "Turn your place into a rainforest and sell tickets." We cackled, then paused, then cackled again. It was absurd and perfect. If Margaret wanted less green, I'd give her a jungle she couldn't ignore. That night, over a cup of homegrown chamomile tea, I dove into research. I studied fast-growing plants suited to our climate: bamboo, giant ferns, passion vines, and scoured the HOA bylaws. No cap on plant numbers, no ban on themed yards, just vague nonsense about community aesthetics. Margaret's aesthetic was wilted shrubs and plastic gnomes. Mine was life. I stayed up sketching a plan in Photoshop, mapping every inch of my property. A front yard of moss and towering elephant ears, a backyard with bamboo walls and a pond. I'd add paths, signs, even carnivorous plants to say, "Back off." By morning, I posted in the neighborhood chat, asking for spare planters or trellises, offering cash or homemade cookies. Responses flooded in. Margaret had more enemies than I'd realized. Mrs. Singh dropped off a hibiscus, a teacher brought ferns, and a guy down the street hauled over a banana tree. My yard became a rebellion hub. We called ourselves the Verdant Crew, half joking, as neighbors showed up after work to rig irrigation pipes, build arches, and paint signs with names like Margaret's Bane and Beige Slayer. Every night, I added something. A mist system from scrap PVC, hanging baskets on custom poles, a secondhand fountain nestled in ferns. In 2 weeks, my lawn was gone, replaced by a rainforest floor up front and a shaded jungle maze in back. Butterflies danced, birds chirped, it was alive. Then came the first visitor, not Margaret, but a stranger named Lila, a garden blogger who'd seen a neighbor's tweet. "Can I walk through?" she asked. I nodded, and she spent an hour snapping photos, gasping at the pond, and raving about the mist. Her post, "Suburbia's Secret Eden," went viral. Comments poured in. "Can we visit? I'd pay to see this." Pay. That word sparked an idea. I made a laminated sign. "Welcome to Urban Oasis. Self-guided tours, $5. Funds for local green projects." I expected a few curious folks. Instead, cars lined the street, parents, plant geeks, even a drone guy filming overhead. I printed maps to keep people from getting lost in the vines. Margaret noticed. Her curtains twitched like a surveillance system. On Monday, she marched over, heels clicking, and snapped, "You can't run a business here." I handed her a waiver and a city code printout proving I was legal: no noise, no block streets, just donations on private property. Her face went crimson, and she stormed off. Next came an investigatory notice about commercial activity. I laughed, filing it in a folder labeled Margaret's Tantrums. I'd already checked with the Sitami setup was compliant. The official I spoke to even asked to bring his kids. But Margaret upped the ante, filing a city complaint about unsafe structures and environmental hazards. 2 officers showed up, clipboards in hand. I offered iced tea and a tour, showing off stable trellises, kid-safe paths, and my tidy irrigation. This is like a botanical garden. One, named Tom, said, ducking under a vine. They left smiling, and an email soon confirmed. Property within compliance. I framed it on my porch. Margaret wasn't done. She pushed an HOA amendment to ban excessive landscaping and public events, clearly targeting me. At the meeting, I rallied 40 neighbors, many first-timers, with signs like, plants, not fines. Mrs. Ellison, a quiet widow, stood and said, Ethan's yard makes this place feel human. Parents praised the educational tours. A couple said their home's value rose thanks to the buzz. The amendment tanked, 42-3, with only Margaret's board cronies voting yes. The room erupted in cheers. She didn't quit. 3 nights later, my security app pinged. There she was, Margaret, in a hoodie, slashing a basket, smashing a pot, and cutting a sign with shears. I called the cops. They reviewed the footage, knocked on her door, and cited her for trespassing and damage after she tried blaming kids. I posted the video online, no caption needed. It exploded comments like, HOA villain caught, and a TikTok remix with jungle beats. The HOA ousted her in an emergency meeting. Word was she'd fled to visit family. We celebrated with a free Oasis Fest music, food trucks, a kid scavenger hunt, and a donation table for a school garden. Over 300 people came, one with a rescue parrot. I'd started with spite, but built a movement. Then, a news crew called. Their story, Oasis versus HOA tyranny, went national. Morning shows joked about escaping HOA jails. My Oasis became a destination, with parking volunteers and t-shirts reading, Fined by Margaret, Saved by Vines. I set up a website for timed tours and partnered with a cafe for snacks. A California startup emailed, proposing Wild Haven kits to spread my idea. I signed on as creative lead, naming it Wild Haven, with the tagline, Grow joy where rules choke. My face, grinning by a fern, hit gardening blogs and store posters. Fame felt odd, but the mission didn't. Margaret resurfaced, consulting for another HOA with her old playbook plant bans, vague finds. I emailed that bored her vandalism clip and citation. She was gone in 48 hours, the internet's wrath faster than my vines. Back home, neighbors launched their own gardens, cactus patches, Zen corners making Clearview a mosaic. I spoke at a city eco conference, sharing how a $500 fine birthed a movement. A couple from another suburb asked, Our HOA's brutal. Is it worth fighting? I handed them a Wild Haven kit. Don't ask if it's worth it. Ask if you'll outgrow them. The Oasis kept growing. College studies, documentary pitches, a board member's apology. I'm glad we lost. An old man sketching orchids said, I live alone. This makes me happy. A mom shared her son's calm after visits. A note under a rock read, Thanks for making this place alive. Mornings, I sip coffee under bamboo, mist humming, birds singing. Visitors still come, drawn by plants, story, or defiance. I don't regret a step. But sometimes I wonder, if I'd paid that fine, what would have happened to this street, these people, this joy? So, I ask you, if your peace was fined, would you fight, or let the garden fade?